Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. I'm Zach, this is Cody. Today we're going to do a bow build for you. Not just any bow build, a hybrid bow build. Alright guys, so like we said, we're going to look at a hybrid bow. What makes a good hybrid bow? We've got a bunch of different bows laid out here in front of us, and we're going to kind of go through them and kind of give our opinion on what to look for. So Cody, what hybrid bow? What do we mean when we say hybrid bow?
We want something that's multi-purpose. We want something we can go hunting with if we want to, something we can go shoot 3D with. We want to go do an indoor league with some friends. We can accomplish that with something that we don't have to invest $2 or $3 or 2 or 3 times the amount of bows to get what we want done.
Right.
So I'm looking for one bow to do everything with. So to accomplish that, there's a certain range of axle to axle length I'm looking for. So I like to be that 33 to 35 for anything as far as a hybrid or multi-purpose bow build.
So why are we looking at that axle to axle length opposed to a short bow, a 30-inch bow, or a 40-inch bow? Why? What's the reason?
It comes down to the term forgiveness. It's kind of thrown around a lot in the archery world. I think forgiveness just means it is simply, it's easier. It's an easier shooting bow. You know, you don't have to. It doesn't require your sharpest moments every single time. Right. You know, so whenever you're executing a good shot, it's going to show down range. Let's say if we have a not necessarily an excellent shot, but not necessarily piss poor or execution, we can still translate that to a decent score down range as well. So
the shorter the bow,
the shorter the bow is harder to shoot for most individuals.
That makes sense.
At a certain level. Now you take someone like John Dudley or Levi Morgan or someone like that, they can probably shoot a 27-inch axle to axle bow and drill tacks with it all day long. Right. Now you take the average individual, they're typically going to shoot a bow anywhere from like 32 to 36 inches, a lot better than they would sub 30.
Okay.
So.
And the reason we're not going with a 40-inch bow with this being a hybrid build is hunting.
Correct.
40-inch bow in the woods.
And it ain't going to be fun. It's going to be heavy, blocky. You're going to hit it on things, and that 33 to 35 I think is a really good sweet spot. 35 would definitely be, I would say, your more out west type. You know, axle to axle length. 33, you're kind of cutting it with that whitetail axle to axle length. So, but it still performs on those longer distance shots as well. So
okay, so we've got some different bows here, and we'll start from the right and work down, and kind of go through, you know, what we think the brands that we carry, some of the best.
For 2022, what are the best bows that they've created this year for hybrid
bows? For that hybrid scenario. So we're starting with, we've got the new, which we just got these in not that long ago, from PSE, the EVO XF, and this is the 33. So what are we looking at with this?
So I really like this particular model because you got 3 different cam sizes. You got the S2, which is a small one. You got an EC, which is your standard evolved cam, and then you have the E2, which is your new evolved cam. And that's going to fit those longer draw archers. The E2 is. The S2 is going to be for your average draw length anywhere from, I want to say this bow goes from like 26 to 30 inches. So it's going to fit a multitude of people on this cam, but you're just going to get really good speeds out of it. Other than that, this bow holds really well. They got a new tuning or new cable rod you can kind of play around with and tune your bow with. You got precision buzz tuning system. You can yoke tune with it, and then you've got tons of little shims, which I actually hate right there. So you can shim the cam if you want to. But other than that, the one feature I really do like is you got multiple sight holes right here, so you can kind of plug and play. Hey, where do I want my scoped and my sight to sit at for this bow? And then it's a dual tapped riser, so you mount your rest in there. It's not going anywhere. I mean, once you run two bolts through it, and then you have the option of a back bar mount, which I think is necessary if you're going to run a hybrid bow. Okay. You know, as far as for 3D and stuff like that, back bar I think is it's crucial. It's a crucial part of making a bow hold better. And you also have 2 mounts for your front bar, so you can kind of play around with that and see where that sits at.
Okay, so next, that's the PSE we've pulled. So now we're moving into Prime. Yes. Prime's got the new Inline series, and we talked about it. You could kind of go either way.
2 ways with this bow.
So this is the Inline 3, but they also have the Inline 5.
Yes.
So both would really work for what we're trying to accomplish here.
We went with the 3 simply because it's actually a little bit more forgiving than the 5 in terms of brace height, and you still get a good axle to axle length at 33 inches. It is not their fastest bow. Their Inline 5 is actually the fastest bow, so that makes this bow is going to be just a touch easier to shoot, I think, for your average individual archer. So.
Okay. And then
a lot of good features in that bow as well. Dual tapped riser, this actually has the best back wall. It's a limb stop. So a lot of your guys that are shooting hinges or buttons or any kind of resistance release, there's no sponge, there's no slop in this thing, there's no give. And the new inline cam is actually a really cool system because you don't have a lot of torque in it at all. So one might argue you don't even need necessarily a ton of bar on the rear and make this thing sway out. It's kind of going to, everything's going to be inline. So,
Right.
Yep, and you do have the option to run one right there as well.
So moving along, this is Hoyt. So this is Hoyt's new Venom Pro 33. So everything right now is kind of in that 33 range for us that we've pulled. So this is Hoyt's newest bow. What do we got with this?
I think the best feature that Hoyt did, there's two features I really like. I really like the grip on this bow. It's slim. It feels like a target style grip, which I love. If you don't like the grip on a bow, that's the first thing people notice when they pick a bow up. Is how does it feel in my hand?
Right.
Hoyt, and honestly, I think Hoyt has the best grips. They've had them consistently for probably the last decade. They just always felt good. They felt great in the hand. Prime and Bowtech are probably next right in line with it, I would say. Honestly, my least favorite is probably Mathews grip. But you have the ability to put different aftermarket grips on it to make it better. So this is their new Vital Point grip. This thing feels good. It's got like a sticky feel to it.
Yeah,
so
it's
you know when
tacky.
when you put your hand in there, you're not gonna slip up and down this riser. This I think should have been done last year. I think they were experimenting with it, see how manufacturers from sight companies would mess around. But this is a much sharper edge. The new Picatinny mount system right here looks cleaner, and you still have the ability to mount your typical sight right there. You only have one burger button here, so I mean it's not going to be as a fortress when it comes to being locked down like your other dual tapped risers. You do have the ability, which I think Hoyt has the best backmore mount system out right now for the money, the side lock mount. The best. It's the lightest. If you're trying to save weight on it, you have infinite adjustability on it. It's slim and it's trim and it fits right in here inside the riser. And you also get some free weight right here. That's what I'm going to call that. This is simply a bow decoration. I don't think this acts as a stabilizer. If you want a good stabilizer on a hunting bow, I'd say run a 10-inch bar, 10 or 12-inch bar, 8 with some weight on it. But now that we're talking about when we're going into 3, we can actually use this as extra weight, so we can kind of save some money on that end as well. So
moving right along, we go from Hoyt. We're going to go into Bowtech. So Bowtech, we chose the SR350.
correct. Another 33-inch axle bow. I believe this is a 6.5-inch brace height as well, or 6-inch brace height. So you're kind of, right around that line of a little bit longer than 6 would have been better, but we're getting phenomenal speeds out of this. So for a hunting setup, that's good stuff. And Bowtech has the best tuning system on the market. The deadlock, I've said in multiple videos, this is it. This is where it's at. You can shoot anything through this thing just about. I mean, you can manipulate other arrows without having to, move your rest or anything.
Which
we're playing with shims.
Is a great option if you're going from shooting 3D to hunting
Yep.
for different arrow setups.
Correct.
Tuning
correct.
that bow it makes
For
it
left
nice.
and rights, it makes it money.
Yeah.
You have your cable stops right here, which are beefed up from what they were last year. And you also have comfort and performance. So performance, I'm probably going to use that for a hunting setup. Comfort, I'm actually probably going to use that for 3D or like any kind of target application because I'm going to be shooting a lot more volume of arrows. So it's going to be a little bit easier on the draw. It is going to make it a little bit slower, but if you go to a traditional target style arrow, or say like a 19 series arrow, which is your standard diameter for a hunting arrow, up to a 23, which is your typical 3D arrow, up to a 27, which is your typical Vegas, or your 3-spot arrow or indoor arrow. But you have a multitude of avenues you can go with this bow, and you have a dual tapped riser here as well, multiple sight holes. It's just very dead in the hand bow, but the grip, this is one of my favorite grips along with the Hoyt, I would say. It's just very, it's a clutch grip is what it's called. But the only thing I could say you could improve on it, I would put some grip tape there. That way my hand doesn't slide up and down the riser as much. But it's very thin. You're not going to see a lot of torque through this thing. Just everyone made a good hybrid bow for any kind of application you wanted to use for archery this year.
And so we kind of chose, moving into the next bows, the Mathews,
It's the V3X 33.
And we kind of chose this as the ultimate.
I think this is going to probably be the standard right now for when it comes to the ultimate hybrid setup.
Agreed. And one of the main reasons that we decided on that was the switch weight mod technology. So you can go from, without having to swap limbs or anything, you can take this bow and make it a 60-pound bow by changing out the mods, or a 70-pound bow.
Yep.
Which is great.
You can get these things up to 80 pounds. I mean, easy.
Right. So, and you can do that with just changing out the mods. So it's an inexpensive way to change the poundage of the bow depending on what you're doing, whether you're hunting or
Yes.
shooting target.
Yep.
So that's kind of why we decided to go with that. So the V3X 33, what are some of the other features on it that kind of made it stand out?
The big thing is the riser, how long the riser is. So a riser is going to equate to a good holding bow. It's a good platform. Just it makes the bow a little bit more stable, I feel like, when you're shooting a longer riser bow. Now, axle to axle is 33. Just like all these other bows, you're still sitting in that 6.5 inch brace height, depending on if you take terms out of the limbs or not. So you've gotten your typical brace height, just like all these other bows have. A neat feature that they kept over from the V3 series to the V3X series is the center guard. So I really think this is actually pretty genius. You move the cables in line with the bowstring right here where your D-loop will sort of be tied at. So now you're creating even pressure among your cables, which your bow, I believe in theory, is going to keep your bow in time more. So that's why you can change these mods out and not have to worry about anything.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And another feature is you got a back bar mount hole here as well. So we're actually going to be running the adjustable Mathews V-bar mount from Shrewd on there. And we've got the new Hamskea Epsilon, the Mathews approved mount. So if you do want to run the low pro quiver they have on there, this rest will allow you to do that.
No issues.
And I stand by this. This is the best rest on the market. There's nothing coming close to it.
Right.
Everybody else has got to play catch up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is the bow we're going to go with. So we're going to go ahead and build this bow out. And we're going to start from the top up, or the top down, excuse me, and we're going to go into the sights. So there's a couple different sight options we're looking at too. And one of the cool features about the Mathews is the bridge lock system.
Indeed, indeed.
So what sight are we going to run on this thing? Or what are our options that we're looking at?
So a lot of guys, you know, target sights are very expensive. They're not cheap. They're very robust. They're very meticulous in how they adjust. It's very finite. So there's a lot of things that are going on with it. If we don't want to go with a target sight, we're going to go straight to our hunting sight. This is very popular right now. The Fast Eddy XL triple stack. I like the triple stack for one feature. You've got 3 upright pins. There's not a lot of clutter left and right. So now, and it's also lens capable.
Okay.
So now we have multiple aiming points in a hunting scenario, and we also have one vertical line for a target scenario. So if we're shooting 3D, we're able to do that, and you're able to dial in the exact yardage you want to. Now the MRT system right here, the multi-ring technology, we can screw that off, put any power lens we want in there. So let's say if we wanted to just put a $100 lens in there, we can do that, you know, and then we can go from shooting a bow hunter class to now, you know, Gnome 40, Gnome 45,
Right.
Gnome 50, Open Pro. I mean, you have that side alone can do that. Moving over, this is probably one of the most popular sights right now. It's probably the hardest to get your hands on. The Achieve XP. We got one in what lasted like 6 hours in the shop. I mean, they don't last long at all. This one is made by Excel. It's just a super robust sight. You got the ability to adjust up and down in click format. Same thing with your windage left and right. You have a QD mount, so you can run multiple different scope setups on there if you wanted to. Metal sight tapes, so your sight tapes aren't getting washed away. I mean,
Which is great for
if you're outside. Yep, if you're out in the elements. I actually hunted with mine last year, so I put a 3-pin housing. So we talked about the ability to change our scope setup just based on the QD mount. That's what I did.
Okay.
So
when we're talking about this in the actual scope in the sight, why are we looking at, you know, what's the pros and cons of going a fixed pin versus a single pin versus a slider sight? You know, why?
So I think a lot of guys that are getting into archery and just want to, you know, dabble in the world of 3D, run your standard fixed pin, you know. Or if you want a little bit more of an advanced sight, you want to shoot a little bit longer distances, you know, run a slider sight. Nothing wrong with that at all. Now, if you're wanting to be like, hey, I've got a couple of extra $100 I want to throw around, you know, not necessarily buy a $2,000 target rig, but I can, you know, put a couple $100 toward a good target sight. V3 makes a great one we sell. Excel makes a great one. Spot Hog even has the Hogfather, which has a click adjustment for your vertical and your windage. So you have multiple avenues that you can go down. Now, going from our Excel target sight right here, we're going to roll into the scope that we're going to run. I think UltraView has knocked it out of the park. You have the ability to have a light kit attached to a scope already, and it comes in one packaging. So that's really sweet. Inside here is what I really dig. So this is their smaller scope housing. The reason why we're looking at a smaller scope housing is if we're focusing on every application of target archery, you have indoor, which a lot of guys run a smaller scope. Now when we go outdoors, here's the feature of having a dovetail system. We can run that scope inward and give the appearance of a bigger image.
Oh, okay.
So now when we're aiming on an animal, let's say 40 yards out, we're not necessarily zoned in onto like a little sector of the animal. We can actually shrink that animal, and we can make our target seem.
So that's the advantage of that slider sight.
Correct.
Okay.
It's gonna relay the image a little bit differently. So for me, for 3D personally, I don't like to be drawing back, looking through a lens, and this all equates to what power lens you run as well. Where this is a 4-power lens. So we're gonna shoot that fly with the bow here in a minute. Just wait. But we have we got a 4-power lens in here. Now typically I like to run a 6. All right, but with a smaller scope housing, I hate running a 6-power lens because it blows the animal up.
Okay.
So now I can't, find the rings on the 3D animal I'm trying to shoot at. So the 4-power gives me the ability to run something nice for indoor. I can pull my scope out and make the image smaller, like zoom it in, essentially, make the X-ring right there. I can bring it in if I needed to see a little bit less, clutter around my 3D rings that I'm shooting at. But in the packaging itself, you get a lot of stuff. They really put a bunch of junk on you with this company. I mean, Colby and crew out there at UltraView, they do a good job. You get multiple colored levels. So, I mean, you can run all kinds of things. There's a standard, there's a green one in there. For your batteries, or for your light, you actually get 2 extra batteries. If we're shooting like World Archery events, you can't run a sight light. You can't have anything battery operated on your scope. So you would actually take that battery kit off and you would put the World Archery kit on there for that. And you got so much cool stuff in here. You got for changing out your batteries instructions. So for people like me, I might need that. There's your 4-power lens right here. You have your fiber. So you got green fiber. You got red, blue, and clear. So I mean, you get multiple colors on that. And then you have the dot kit. I'm a big fan of running a dot indoors, and I'm a big fan of running a fiber outside. So you get every multitude of whatever application of archery you want to run through your scope. So
this really is a sight.
That is the ultimate scope right now, I think. And a lot of companies are going to be, they're kind of put on notice with that right now.
So we're going to go ahead and get that UltraView scope mounted on the Excel Achieve XP.
Yes.
Is that what we're going to run for our sight?
That's what we're going to run for our sight.
So moving down, we kind of already covered it, but we're looking at a rest. What do we look for in a rest that kind of gives us the best of both worlds?
I think the rest is the most important piece on a bow. Besides with the bow strings itself,
right.
If you have crappy strings on there, your bow's not going to perform. It's not going to hold like it should. I mean, it's just strings are number 1, I think. Rest is number 2. This is the transmission. This is the chassis of the actual bow, in my opinion. It's what creates the arrow from the string to the target. If you don't have anything consistent and repeatable, your accuracy is going to diminish. Right. So, being that Hamskea is robust as it is, they've had a proven rest, the Hybrid Hunter Pro. They translated that last year with the Trinity, and then they added a ball bearing with the Trinity, 3 for Trinity. So you got 3 ball bearings. The 3 ball bearings are in the new Epsilon as well. You just have a new Delta V well tail right here, so we'll actually take this bow out so you can see it, and it's got a new rubber over mold over it, so it's going to be a little bit more durable. But the Delta V system right in there, it cradles the arrow, I think, a little bit better. But here's the cool kicker on the Epsilons. We can take this cage off if we wanted to run a fatter shaft, and not have any clearance issues. So you can literally unscrew this and unscrew this, and now you have an arrow container right there. So if we're running our larger or our smaller diameter shafts, whatever we want to for hunting, we can do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Same thing. Best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds. Yep. And then the rest. This is Hamskea's most expensive rest, but like I said, I think if anything, cheapen out on your side a little bit, but get the best rest that you can afford. So
put your money there.
Put your money
if
where your strings.
Start with the rest.
Your strings and your rest. Put your money there first. Yep.
Perfect. So moving on, going further down on the bow, we've hit on it a little bit, but we're looking at stabilizers.
Yes.
And there is a difference between what most guys are running for target and for hunting.
Yes.
Obviously, as far as bar length, weight, etc. So what are we looking at as far as like a 3D setup? What kind of bars? What length? Weight, what are we looking at?
So being that we're going to put the lens in this UltraView scope and we're going to be running the 4-power, I opted for the long bars already. So we're going to be running a 30-inch front bar, and I believe it's a 12-inch back bar. Now, if we weren't running a lens and you say you didn't have the extra money to throw towards, a little bit higher grade target bar, I would suggest run a typical 12-inch hunting stabilizer and run like a 10-inch or an 8-inch back bar, and just kind of play around with the weight and see where your bow is holding at for that. But being, like I said, 90% of the clubs and such around the area, if you're running a lens, you're out of the bow hunter class. Mm-hmm. So now we're kind of going to be forced to compete, with the actual target class or target archers.
So get every advantage.
So get every advantage you can from it. Yep. We're going to be opting for the ramrods right here. This company is like probably my favorite stabilization company out right now. They got a bunch of cool stuff going on. They're the first company, I believe, to use like a tungsten blend, or it's pure tungsten powder, 3 ounces at the end of the bar. And this bar I like, particularly for 3D, is it's tapered down. So if you look at this end, it actually shrinks down when you get to the distal end. So it's going to fight wind really well. So for 3D application, this is sweet. 3 ounces of tungsten already, so if you don't want to have to buy a ton of weight, which we didn't grab a whole lot, we just grabbed, I think, we got 12 ounces here, so we'll probably put 4 on the front, put 8 on the back, and see how it feels and holds. But you get a high quality bar with this Vector bar right here. We're also going to be running a quick disconnect. I think if you've got, a couple $100 for a bar, you can opt for 20 bucks, put a quick disconnect on it, make your life a little bit easier. And moving from there, we have the adjustable V-bar we're going to be running on there, and that's a Shrewd Atlas mount. So this is probably the best mounting system, I believe, when it comes to a back bar for, if your high grade target equipment. There's a lot of guys that actually run these on hunting bow. They're a little bit heavier. If it was just particularly for me a hunting bow, I'd probably just run the Hoyt sidebar mount or the side lock mount, the SL mount that Hoyt makes. But in the packaging, of course, you get the cool little Mathews genuine V-bar stuff right here. That's just going to allow for a lot of adjustment.
And that's what the point of that mount is. You adjust exactly where you want to run that rear bar.
Indeed. And you have a multitude of screws and bushings and everything like that to lock everything down toward the bow. So they really take care of you on that end. Like I said, for the money, this thing is sweet. You get a lot of adjustment. You have tons of different numbers on there. Like, you can make this thing left-handed or right-handed, so you don't have to worry about that. But going from there, I think the era that we're going to be running, like we said, we've got a ton of money invested in all these accessories and all this cool stuff. We're just going to be running our standard hunting shaft, I think. I think this is a good way to go. This is
across the board, we're going to run one shaft.
We're just going to run one shaft for everything. The reason why is we don't have to want to constantly retune our rest up and down. Now, with the top hats in here, you can get left and rights out of it and stuff. The cool thing with the Hamskea is it's actually running the core system. It stands for center shot optimized rest. So it's out of the gate 13/16 from the factory. So we're not adjusting anything on this rest left and right. Everything should be done with the top hats that Mathews has on the bow right now. So, yep.
And aside from that, one of the things that we kind of overlooked is the quiver. So, do we want to run a fixed quiver on a bow like this? Would we want a removable quiver?
Definitely, I think definitely. I'm a fan of a removable quiver.
Makes sense.
So, and the reason why is, if you don't have a detachable quiver, you can't take it off unless you're unscrewing stuff up here and down here. It's just a hassle. It's just extra stuff we don't need to do. So, we're going to be running the low pro quiver as far as for a hunting scenario. For 3D and any other avenue of target archery, we're just going to be running a hip quiver.
Okay.
So.
So Cody got this bow set up in a matter of minutes. We had
Pretty simple.
What do we have to? A couple clicks right.
I think we gave it like 3 or 4 clicks to the right. It gave us a little bit of a knock left tear, and after that it was perfect. So 2 back to back. Like this second one even better than the first. So the bow holds really good. That's what I like about it. It holds like a brick. So
it does. It's rock
really
solid.
Good on target.
So those bars are incredible.
Yep, they're little, and then we only have 8 ounces on the front, or well, technically there's 3 ounces or 2 ounces of tungsten here. So 4, 8, so 10 ounces on the front, and then 7 or 8 on the, or 10 ounces on the back, 7 or 8 on the front. So
there's a lot of great options this year as far as if you're looking, you only have the ability to, purchase one bow. Or you just want to shoot one bow all year. There's a lot of great options out there, but we kind of ultimately came to the same decision that the V3X, in our opinion,
33
if you're
is
on a budget,
for one bow to have to do everything, the V3X is going to be a hard bow to beat right now. So the big flaw in the bow is the grip.
Agreed. We both.
The grip will roll you. You will feel the bow roll in your hand essentially, and I think if you put the Ultra View grip, actually I've got one over here. We should have looked at it. The Ultra View grip.
You're literally out of frame talking. Can't hear anything.
The Ultra View grip. It's more square, it's more blocky, and it's got some texture to it, but I think this is a Chris B's Ultra View grip version, so it fits more in the hand, more square like that, and you don't really need to do anything to it to alter it to fit it on the bow. So I think that would be the modification I would make to it.
The one.
Yep, the one modification I would do is take the grip off and run the Ultra View grip for sure.
So recap. 3D, running these longer bars.
Oh yeah.
If you're going into a hunt scenario, we would probably change the bars out. Would you still run a back bar on it?
Depends on where I'm going. If I'm in like a tight tree stand or something like that, I probably wouldn't run a back bar. If I'm going, if I'm going out somewhere where I'm stalking or something like that, I'd definitely run a back bar, I feel like so.
But a little bit shorter front bar on it?
Yep. Probably a 10 and a 8 or a 12 and a 10 or something like that, or a 10-10.
So yeah. That kind of recaps it. Let us know what you think, what the ultimate bow build or hybrid bow build in your opinion would be. We look forward to hearing from you on that. And besides that, make sure you follow us on all of our social media channels, like and subscribe. Head over to extremeoutfitters.com, check out the events tab. Our 3D series is starting this weekend, and we've got a 6 or 7 shoot series that we're running into the middle of this year, so check that out. Besides that, make sure you're following us and stay tuned for the upcoming videos we got coming out.
Let us know what you'd like to see as far as either bow builds between different brands or whatnot, or if any more product reviews. We got a lot of those coming out as well. So
yeah, there's a bunch
of
stuff
dropping. Yep.
We'll see you in the next video.